appreciate the time. Looks like you got a visitor with you. Who's that in the back seat?
I have a few of them. It depends on which one you see. And you probably, well, I think that's Kylo. But there's
Oh,
Kylo, Kai, and Freyr all back there right now.
okay. Yeah, I see a pair of ears sticking out behind the other pair of ears. Awesome. Well, again, really appreciate the time. Aspen Ladd, making your PFL regular season debut coming up. You did already have your promotional debut. So just wanted to start there with you. How are you feeling ahead of this one?
Fantastic and excited. Like I'm glad that I've already have one PFL fight under my belt, and just I understand basically how they work. It's very similar to. It's just nice having that experience to see exactly what to expect.
And that was kind of going to be my next question. Does getting that first one under your belt give you an idea of how the promotion works, the media day, the obligations, all that stuff? So obviously it does.
Yeah, very much so, and super similar to like things that I've done before for the UFC, and they have a very similar structure. The only difference is I would say that the PFL is sure you have your obligations, but they're less militant about it. It's like, all right, we're gonna get it done, and you have to get it done, obviously, but it's just a more of a chill vibe, which I like.
Well, that's good to hear. And you did pick up the split decision win against Julia Budd back in November. What were your takeaways from that fight?
Julia was a very tough fight, and I have quite a few things to work on, but overall, all saw the end well, and my takeaway from that is generally it's the same with any fight and every fight that I've had. I tend to hyper focus on the things that I did poorly and just improve those. So it's kind of hard, win or lose, for me to like, hey, I did a great job in A, B, and C. It's like, nah, I got to work on all these things.
When you talk about the things you need to work on, was there anything in particular that you took away from that you focused on ahead of this next fight?
So this fight's a very different opponent, and we tend not to focus on the opponents themselves. It's more or less just focus on you and what you do well, and then tweaking it for the particular style. Um, so it's just overall working on everything.
And this fight obviously is Olena Kolesnyk. What are your thoughts on the matchup? I know you say you don't focus on the opponent, but I'm sure you've seen a bit of her. What are your thoughts on this one?
Very much so.
Oh, you cut out there just a little. I was just saying,
Just
what
find out. What was that?
what are your thoughts on Olena ahead of this one?
It's actually kind of weird because I thought it actually occurred to me that she might be the person that I get for the tournament, but we didn't know who else was going to be in it besides the obvious, like Julia and it's the winner of last year. But so when I got her, I wasn't shocked, but just looking at her, she's a heavy-handed southpaw striker, and that's basically all she wants to do.
And when you look at the PFL season, I mean, like you said, she's a heavy-handed striker, so you got to worry about that. She's probably going to be coming for the finish, and the finish gets you points, and the points get you the better seeding in the playoffs, get you into the playoffs, and then get you the better seeding potentially. Does that change your approach to a fight? I mean, do you go out there trying to find the finish, or do you hope that it just kind of comes to you in the natural course of things?
I'm going to stick to it more of a. So I'm always in every fight looking for the finish. You always are striving to get it. But I think if you hyper focus on it too much, it'd probably have a negative effect on the fight. This is obviously the first time I've done the tournament format and had points and that were up or down depending on at what point you finish the fight. But I'm gonna try not to hyper focus on that. Obviously, I'm gonna go out and strive for the finish, but I don't want to think about it. It has to be like right now. It's like nah, I'm just gonna go out and organically get to it.
Good stuff. And the other factor with the tournament format is you need to stay healthy. You've got to make sure that you don't fall out of the tournament because even missing one of the regular season fights, you might not make the playoffs depending on the points. Does it change your approach? I've asked a few fighters this. Some say yes, some say no. But does it change your approach to training?
Yes, it does. My teammates and I were talking about that, Fluffy Max and I. Like, because we're gonna have to change certain things. Like, you can't do as much to the death hard type sparring, and you got to be more careful with other live rounds. I think because you just can't. every time I've been hurt, and every time for the majority of fighters, we get hurt during training. We get hurt during the build up to a fight. So when you have that many back to back, trying to stay healthy is going to be a balancing act, and knowing when to push and when to lay off a little bit. But obviously, it's my first time doing this format, this type of fight, where you're back to back to back. At least not since I've been a professional. But it's really going to be experiencing, seeing how I feel during the process, and really just tweaking as we go to avoid injury and be able to stay fresh enough to keep on going.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you didn't know who was going to be in the tournament other than, Julia Budd and the champ, Larissa Pacheco. Is there any disappointment on your part that you're not going to get to see Kayla Harrison in the regular season because she's doing the super fight division?
I completely expected her not to, so that's not something I was expecting for the tournament period. I didn't think she'd be doing another round, and I didn't think she'd be doing it at 45.
Fair enough.
If she does a super fight, maybe she...
Oh, you cut out just a little there. We got your picture. We lost your audio. Oh, now we've kind of lost your picture. I think you're in slow motion. You might just be in some bad reception. We'll give it a second. There you are.
Probably. Cool. Okay, I see you now.
All right, we're back. We're back. So sorry if you can just go back to that. You said you kind of expected she wouldn't be in the season, and maybe you'd see her down the road in the super fight division.
Yeah, no, I would absolutely love to fight Kayla Harrison, but I did not expect her to be in the tournament whatsoever. And I knew last year going into it that I would be in the 45 tournament this year unless some extreme thing happened. But I think the timeline of her everything changed completely with her last fight. So who knows what she's going to do? Because clearly her and Larissa aren't doing the rematch right away either. So it's kind of, I don't know what Kayla wants to do or what PFL wants to do with Kayla. So we'll see if this upcoming year what she ends up doing and where she is. But yeah, I think it's going to be just super fights.
Good stuff. Well, hopefully you get that at some point. I think she is still the big draw in the PFL. Whether she stays at lightweight, whether she goes to 145, she did fight there once before for that one-off in Invicta. You've now
Yeah.
moved to 145. Obviously, you spent years looking at the 135 division. I've covered a couple of your fights. I was actually at the Atlantic City card in 2018 with the fight with Leslie Smith that eventually fell through. I don't think you necessarily get enough credit for trying to make 135 and just gutting it out. I'm wondering if you can explain, like for those of us who haven't cut weight, and I think that's a lot of us. Like I've hit a heavy bag, I've hit pads, but I've never been in competition. I've never had to cut weight. Most people haven't. What was that cut like for you, and how different do you feel at 145?
Hey, it's good to feel healthy again. Yeah, no, for years and years I was doing 35 and basically everything that I possibly could, dieting most of the year, everything. But it was just too much, and I knew it years ago. And I was trying to go up, and it just didn't work out with the UFC. And then I started having some pretty serious health issues, and finding out what that was. And the cuts definitely weren't helping. So it's like, you know what, I'm done. Like I'm still young, and I want to be healthy, and I want to live to be an old lady. So we're going up regardless. And yeah, no, I ended up where I am now, and I couldn't be happier. And it feels good to feel good again.
Well, that is fantastic to hear. When you say it didn't work out with the UFC, I know you've touched on this a little before, but was it just that they don't really have the division? Like they have Amanda as champion, but they've never really built the weight class.
Yeah, they're not putting any effort into it. And from what I have seen and understand, they're basically getting rid of that weight class. Like you see the one-offs, but they're not trying to do anything to bolster, trying to do anything to do anything more than what they have. Just the one-off fights of people that are kind of on the edge. But they're not trying to create a division. They're not trying to have contenders in the 145. Their sole focus seems to be 135, and I know that's what it was when I was there, which is why it wasn't in my card with that promotion to go up to 45, because they need contenders at the 35 division. But yeah, any 45ers in the UFC, they can draw if they need to, and if they can't, well, they're gonna have to look at their options.
And the PFL has, obviously stepped up as one of those options this year at 45. Um, I'm going to ask you one more question before I let you go, and I really do appreciate the time today. Um, it is, and I think it's 2 days away, the 10-year anniversary of your debut as an amateur. Um,
Oh wow!
yeah, happy belated birthday, by the way, because I know it was the start of the month when I did my check. But you debuted not long after your 18th birthday, I believe, and you've come
I
such a long way. Just what are your thoughts on the journey that you've had so far?
hadn't even thought about it like that, man. Um, yeah, no, I debuted as Amy 2 weeks after I turned 18, or about 2 weeks. So as soon as it's fight I can get, as soon as my birthday hit, it's like I'm on site right now. But looking back, like time just flies, and all the experiences I've had, mostly positive, and then the other ones were, well, it was an experience. But I've had such an extraordinary life because of this sport, and I'm only 10 years into it. 10 years took like obviously training before that, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I've had highs and lows, but at this point, I couldn't be happier with where I am, especially with the PFL. Like, it's like a new season for me, like in life, in my career. And everything is so positive and just awesome. Like, I got a fight and I'm just straight up excited about the fight. I'm not worried about anything else. So, yeah, no, it's been an extraordinary ride so far. And I'm looking forward to this next year, the year after that, just all of it.
Well, that is fantastic to hear. And when you think about it, you've got 10 more years if you want them. Maybe you don't want to go that long, but you've got a long ways ahead to go, and you do seem to be in a great place. Aspen, thank you very much for the time today. Looking forward to the fight in April. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye.